Jai Shri Krishna everyone. My name is Rajveer. For this panel discussion, first of all I'll welcome all the guests. Welcome everyone. Let's have a round of applause for all the guests please. So today we all say business is getting intelligent. Let's decode how and is it really getting intelligent? So I'll start with a common question for all of us. When we say business is moving fast and business is getting intelligent, how do you think it's technology, decision making, or just the investments? So we'll start with Devesh ji.
Thank you, Rajveer ji. Very interesting question. So, primarily when a decision is made in terms of whether it's the mindset, whether it's the entrepreneur, or whether it's something else. So I have a very different way of looking at this. How I look at it is when I have somebody coming to me and saying that, I have this business, do you want to invest there? My 70% assessment goes on the entrepreneur because the bet is on the jockey and not on the horse. So what I try to do is I try to understand, is the entrepreneur, does he possess the three qualities at least that I look for in most of my companies where I've invested in. I called it the PDF, and it's not the Adobe PDF. So P stands for perseverance, D stands for discipline, and F stands for focus. So if you have seen Colonel Sanders, who started KFC, I think he knocked 1009 doors before achieving success. If you look at Thomas Edison, I think 10,000 failed experiments before achieving success. So what I feel is an entrepreneur needs to be perseverant enough to travel the extra path. Many a time what happens is people take 5 attempts, 7 attempts, 8 attempts, 10 attempts and they're like, nahi ho pa raha yaar, hamare laik nahi hai ye cheez. But they have to keep trying and trying until they achieve success. So that perseverance is very important. And that is something that I have my own way of analyzing the person, the founder, to be sure that is he or she perseverant enough for me to invest into the company, because at the end of the day, it's the founder who will run the show. The second is on the discipline. You need to be disciplined. Many a time we get failures in our life and we stop. If you have the willpower to keep continuing being disciplined, irrespective of failures, I think that is very important. And the third is focus, laser sharp focus. अभी सिंस आपने सबको इतनी बार जय श्री कृष्ण बोला, मेरे को थोड़ा माइथोलॉजी की याद आ गई. सो एक प्रसंग था जब द्रोणाचार्य कौरव्स और पांडव्स को आर्चरी सिखा रहे थे. And at that point of time, he first calls in Duryodhana and he asks him, what all can you see? He says, I can see a bird up in the air, I can see some leaves, some clouds. He said, okay, fine. Then he asks Yudhishthira, what all can you see? He says, I can see the bird's eye, I can see some leaves in the background. He says, okay. He calls in Arjun. He asks him, what all can you see? He says, I can only see the bird's eye. He again asks him, what all can you see? He says, only the bird's eye. He's like, shoot, and hits the bird's eye. And he was one of the best archers of his time. And that was the laser sharp focus that he had. So I feel that is very important. For me, the 70% focus goes there in terms of the PDF. The remaining 30% is the business scalable? And the last one is, what is his or her unfair advantage? The USP that he or she brings to the table, which actually creates the difference whether this business is investable or not. So I think that's my humble submission to your question.
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल जैसे आपने जय श्री कृष्णा का बोला, तो मतलब एक विश्वास सा हो गया है. आई बिलीव एवरीवन ट्रस्ट्स अ सर्टेन थिंग. आप बिजनेस कर रहे हो, आप फैमिली चला रहे हो, हर कुछ सब कुछ मेरे हिसाब से ट्रस्ट पे चलता है. सो मूविंग टू देवांग जी, मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहूंगा कि आज डिसीजन मेकिंग में आप किस चीज को सबसे ज्यादा ट्रस्ट करते हो व्हेन इट कम्स टू बिजनेस और एनीथिंग? डिसीजन मेकिंग में आप किसको सबसे ज्यादा ट्रस्ट करते हो?
Sure, absolutely. So from the investor standpoint, I think Devesh has already told you what investors think about, right? So let me just look at it from the other side of the table. As in a founder, what do you need to look at while you take decisions? Okay, so then it will be a proper mix for everybody, right? As a founder, I think there are a lot of things that you need to look at before taking decisions. Okay, today's world is a very, very fast-moving world, if you guys understand, right? The tech is evolving every second minute, not even day. Every second minute, there's something new coming up in the world, which means you have to be up to date and knowledgeable as in what's happening in your ecosystem or in your industry, what your competitors are doing. Okay, so tech definitely is going to play a very big role in making decisions in future. So we all of us know what AI is. Everyone talks about AI. If any business is not adopting AI, then probably you will not be able to do business in future, right? So that's one thing you have to keep in mind. But while you keep that in mind, I think the leadership plays a very important role. How do you transition from a non-tech company to a tech company? Right, very important. So as a leader, if you can't keep your guys engaged, if you can't keep your customers informed on what's going within your organization, right? Why? Because whenever there's any kind of transformation or a shift happening, things are bound to go wrong, right? He gave an example of Arjun. हम तो कोई अर्जुन है नहीं कि पहली बार में चिड़िया के आँख में मार देंगे एरो, है ना? तो हमको 10 बार एरो मारो, वो भी लगा तो लगा, नहीं लगा तो फिर अब कुछ नया निकालना पड़ेगा. Yeah, that's how life is for most of our people. And that's why we have to keep experimenting. We have to keep informed your customers, your within customers, which your employees, and then that's how it grows basically. Yeah. So that's my.
तो जो आपने कहा लगा तो it's लगा तो तीर नहीं लगा तो तुक्का.
Startup industry, that's how it is. Startup is all about experimenting. यहाँ पे अर्जुन अगर पहली बार में मिल गया तो हम सब, so then everybody would have made money. Yeah, we make losses in our investments. The reason is we don't know who our Arjun is. Right? अगर सबको अर्जुन पहली बार में मिल गया तो सब unicorns पे bet लगाएंगे ना.
Sir, no, I completely agree with this. Moving on to Rahul ji, मैं आपसे यही जानना चाहूँगा, like he said, AI. I mean, I am very sure everyone sitting in the audience is aware how AI can be useful and dangerous also. But do you really believe that AI is a threat or a possibility? And especially like when we're talking about on-ground decisions, करना तो सब human को ही है ना sir. At the end, human will control the AI. AI will not control the humans. So what is your say on that?
First of all, thank you so much, and a quick disclaimer that all the views are personal and do not represent the organization. Yeah. Coming to your question, I think it's to the person and the entity who is using the technology. So if I say technology is the biggest mover while it's coming to the faster decision making, but it's not something which is, let's say, moving the needle. How quick you take the decision with the help of technology and how your leadership, your team is adaptable to the technology and how quick you are taking decision and executing the same on the ground is something which is really important. Let's say earlier leadership, people used to take decision on a quarterly or a yearly basis. Now people take decision on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis because the market conditions are different. Competition is aggressive. There are brands which are coming as a force to you and giving a tough competition just because of AI and technology. So you need to be aware and cognizant of the market condition which is happening around the world and also to the competition, right? And to put to the end, AI is something which is useful for everyone. It's up to the person and the organization how do you use it and how do you make sure that your team, your whole system is adaptable to the new technology and AI. That is something which is there. Yeah.
But ये तो हुई बात short term की.
Yeah.
I mean, if I ask you long term, and especially long term में what do you see? Like अगर आज से 2 साल बाद, 5 साल बाद, long term में at least 5 साल बाद, 10 साल बाद, do you really think AI can replace humans?
Absolutely not, because there are things which cannot be done by AI. So I would say AI is complementing human. They are not going to replace human. So let's say, if I'll give you an example, a very simple example. Let's say if you want to hire someone, so I have a pool of candidates, you can shortlist people through AI, but what to do with that person after coming to the team, or how do you, I would say, take that person on a emotional level, because if you want to make sure that that person stays with you, you need to judge that person from every front, and that AI cannot do. Let's say if you want to promote a person within the organization, you need to have certain skills which is there, you can assess through technology, AI, KPIs, etc. But you cannot assess the person whether this person has been there with you in a good times or a bad times, how has he behaved. That sort of thing cannot be done by the AI. So we need to have that sort of thing so that AI can only complement, AI can make you 10x better, but it cannot replace human. Yeah.
So with that same thing, do you agree, Dr. Moksha, with this? Because you are also in the legal industry. So would you really agree that the AI is not a threat for the human jobs, human talent?
See, when I started my first research in law, I had books on my table, and then I used to write notes from it. But when I did my second PhD, I only had my iPad. That has reduced volumes which can be summarized. But then after it has reduced, whatever is summarized, you need a human eye to sort it out. There was one random reel which I have seen. People have bought, some person has bought a robot to cook, and that robot messes the entire kitchen. Point that we have to understand is, at the end of the day, machines are created by humans. God has created humans. Now God's creation will survive. Human creation will always perish. God's creation also perishes, but at its own time frame. And that time frame actually does not outlive machine learning. Now when it comes to AI, a simple point is, when we do ML, machine learning system, ChatGPT has started with hallucination. Today it is giving some better results. Why? For a simple reason, it has data to churn now. So now Perplexity started, then they started Comet. So every tool which comes in AI has to be taught first. Now what is taught, it gives us opinions from that. So it would definitely replace certain jobs which are mechanical in nature, which are rhetoric in nature. But it will not replace those jobs which look for reasoning and analysis. So AI will help in that reasoning and analysis because it churns the data. But as such, per se, for reasoning, AI cannot replace. So AI will never replace human, is my stand.
So, but मैं इसमें आपसे ये जानना चाहूँगा, because you come from the legal background. So what according to you is more important for the business, compliance or governance?
To survive, you need compliance. To exist, you need to have governance.
But still, I mean, there are brands who do not do both. So, I mean, किसी का कुछ important है, किसी का कुछ important
No,
है.
it's like this. See, if I don't comply, gone are those days where you could manage at the sections and registry levels.
Right.
Today, challans are generated by the system. And they cannot be reversed because it has a timeline.
Right.
So when you say per day 200 rupees, GST filing default, now there's no choice. Yeah. No one can do anything out of it. So compliance has to be done. But when it comes to governance, there is again a code of conduct, ethics involved. Governance still has its own flavor. But compliance is something which you are forced to do now. Thanks to our advancement in technology, we have made sure that people comply. Now, for example, you see you can't debate about a traffic challan today because it comes with a photograph. What you can maximum debate is whether that particular challan was genuinely used, genuinely made based on the camera, which is officially acceptable. But as such, per se, the challan you can't debate. You can debate the source at which it was uploaded. So that's a technical fit which we have to work on. So technology has made compliance obligatory. Governance has become a part of understanding of the corporates. Some people play around with governance, but compliance people are very difficult to play around. That's my take on it.
So I'll ask Devesh ji. Devesh ji, मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहूँगा, जैसे आप पहले आपने कहा, अर्जुन ने चिड़िया की आग देखी. So I would say now when someone comes to you for investments or like anything, startup, आपके लिए numbers और clarity दोनों में से ज़्यादा important क्या है?
दोनों coexist करते हैं. Clarity is important to understand what is the person thinking, and the numbers actually show what is he thinking. So both have to coexist, and as mentioned earlier, numbers जो पेपर पे बनते हैं, अगर हम सबके numbers देखें तो हर कोई billionaire बनेगा. So we cannot take that very seriously. The clarity also the person has, he has it for the time being. The clarity keeps getting dynamic with time. So if anyone says that today I am planning this and this will sustain with me for the next 5 years, 10 years, you can't believe, because every 6 months things keep changing, they keep getting dynamic. For him, that numbers can be more like a Bhagavad Gita for him, that if he's deviating from it, it brings him back to the path. So that becomes more like a sounding board or more like a principle that if there is a deviation, you come back to the mean. So that can be used for that, but I think answering your question, both is needed, clarity with numbers to ensure that the company is investable or not.
देवांग जी, यही सेम चीज मैं आपसे जानना चाहूँगा, क्लैरिटी नंबर के बारे में देवेश जी ने क्लियरली बता दिया, बट सबसे मुझे जो लगता है कि आज की जनरेशन में when we talking about goals and everything, how important is mindset for you और किस स्पीड से, क्योंकि everyone, especially the youngster today, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. किसी को आज जॉब नहीं करनी है, हर किसी का माइंडसेट बन गया है कि मैं entrepreneur बनूंगा, मैं बिलियनर बनूंगा, which is a good manifestation to have. But I would like to know, when you connect with brand investors or when startups connect with you, so आपके लिए mindset कितना जरूरी है?
Mindset 100% important है. सबसे पहले तो you need to have a right mindset to do anything. अगर see again, you could have some kind of a drug which can be used for betterment of the society and for the bad of the society, right? Mindset is very important. The same technology can be used by a doctor and a terrorist, right? Mindset is very, very important, right? Going back to the numbers discussion that we were having, about the clarity on numbers, I think your numbers and financial focus, as Devesh bhai said, if we would have been able to stick to all the numbers that we show on the financial forecast, sab unicorn ban gaye rehte, hai na? And I am a very firm believer of one thing: a financial forecast should only be made for companies that have existed for at least 3 years. Early stage starters' financial forecast make absolute no sense to me. Why? Because you'll be pivoting your business model 10,000 times in the next 5 years, right? And how would you be able to stick to your financial forecast what you've created? You can't, right? Why? Because your future is uncertain. You don't know what Modi is going to come on television and say at 8 p.m. today. Your financial forecast has gone for a toss. You don't have a business model in place right now. Yeah? So for early stage businesses, I think clarity is very, very important. Karna hai, kaise karna hai, along with whom I have to make it, and how will I reach up to next 3 to 5 years ka plan, clarity hona tha. After that 3 years, once you've been in business for 3 years, now you know what you've done, what you want to do, right? You at least have some basic numbers, you have some basic data room with you now, right? And based on that data room, then you can convert that or build that into a proper financial forecast or your numerical clarity that we're talking about. That's what my take is.
Rahul ji, I'll ask you the same thing. When we're talking about numbers, mindset, clarity, do you really think that for a bigger company, I'm not talking about startups now, for you, I'll say large scale companies, do you think they can plan these numbers for short term goals also? Like when you hire someone, especially when you hire people for your brand, how important is their vision to adapt with the large scale companies' numbers and mindset?
So there are two questions you are asking, so I'll answer first. So with respect to mindset, I would say mindset is one of the important lever which we look for. Anyone is looking for, whether it's startup, large organization, because if you see a person has a capability, he might be very capable and he does not have the right mindset, he cannot do I would say a 10x sort of a thing. But if you combine both the things, mindset plus the capability, then you would be able to get 10x of the things which he is or she is looking for. So that is something which is non-negotiable, that mindset and the attitude of the person should be there, and it's also relevant for the organization as well. So whenever we talk about any organization, they should have right capability within the organization, and they should have that sort of mindset also to grow and disrupt in the market. The second question you're asking, that whether it's about the large, for the large organization, it's long-term planning or a short-term quick decisions. I would say it's a combination of both. It's not either or, it's a combination of both. So you need to have your core strategy intact. Let's say I would have my strategy intact for next 5 years, 10 years. But as per the market condition, I need to go ahead and change things, change my decision as per the market condition, as per the competition, as per the technology which is going on, right? So you have to make sure that you're combining, you're marrying both. The long-term planning plus short-term execution. That is something which you can sail through. Yeah.
So like the topic says intelligence in business. So मैं डॉक्टर मोक्षा से जानना चाहूँगा, सर आजकल सब कुछ ऑटोमेशन पे ज़्यादा फोकस हो रहा है. What is one thing you would say automate नहीं करना चाहिए companies को?
One thing companies को automate ये नहीं करनी चाहिए कि basically the reasoning part, what you should do, and the prioritization part, when you should do. Because everything people automate, you can do sales follow-up automation, chalega. You can do compliance automation, chalega. But you cannot do an employee recruitment or firing automation. नहीं चलेगा. You cannot do funding automation. That will never work. Because what happens when you actually automate, I've seen many people, Devesh will accept my statement. जब fund आ जाता है, Singh बढ़ जाते हैं. Expansion करो, outlets खोलो, दुनिया को दिखा दो कि हम तोप हैं. Discipline they leave. And people forget that expansion is leading to numbers. That doesn't happen. Because the number of outlets which grow along with a fund will get perished when the fund gets exhausted. So the discipline is what people have. That's why he said, you cannot prioritize. I'm getting a fund, I cannot prioritize my outlets. I'm getting a fund, I cannot prioritize my human capital. So if I'm recruiting someone, it is not the fund which has to be recruited. I have to first see and map मेरा culture क्या है मेरे company का. And if someone is coming and then disturbing my company culture, how so great the person is, he will see the disaster of the company. So the person has to gel in the company. So human resources cannot be automated. Sales people recruit. I want to sell, so I will recruit 10 people. They will get 100 businesses with me. नहीं होगा. 10 will never get 100 because that's not a jointing number. So this will never automate. Yeah, you do sales, email follow-up, chalega. WhatsApp automation, chalega. You can't automate where human is involved, more so where emotion is involved. And business happens not by numbers, it happens by emotion. And in India or any part of the world, it's the relation that brings business. This is my strong feeling.
I just saw sir का mobile blink हुआ तो मुझे time दिखाया तो keeping the time in mind, one last question for everyone and we'll have quick short answers for this. I'll ask Devesh ji, next 5 years में you think किस type के founders और किस type के startups will struggle, one who take too much risk or one who are really scared of taking risk?
So the one who will struggle in दोनों category में नहीं है. The one who will struggle is the one who will not innovate. Because I feel what is risk लेना नहीं लेना, I think that is completely a person's personality. If he is a risk taker or no, it does not mean कि आप entrepreneur हो तो आप risk taker हो. आप risk लो लेकिन with protection. For example, अगर आप पानी में कूद रहे हो, अगर आपको swimming आनी चाहिए तो कूदिए या float लेके कूदिए. इसका मतलब नहीं कि मैं entrepreneur हूँ तो मैं पानी में कूद जाऊँगा. So and everyone has their own risk taking capacity. So I think that should not define, because that's again a personality thing of an entrepreneur. What defines is innovative, because I feel change is the only constant thing today and one needs to keep changing with time. So we have multiple examples. आप Kodak देख लीजिए, Nokia देख लीजिए, BlackBerry देख लीजिए. They didn't change with time, they didn't innovate. We know their conditions. At the same time, we have companies like Reliance, we all know of. It's been innovating every day. It realized that today AI is picking up, it's gone into AI. It has realized that today data banks is a big thing, it's gone into data mining. So, and there are multiple such examples. Book My Show आप देख लीजिए आप, बहुत सारे examples है. Redbus देख लीजिए, जहाँ normal booking था उसने innovate किया, Redbus create किया. Book My Show था, normal ticketing था, उसने innovate किया, came with something else. There are, look at Steve Jobs. Apple के लिए iPad से went to iPhone, went to tablets, iPod से iPhone से iPad, kept innovating. So what I feel is, in the next 5 years, the one who will make a mark for himself or herself is the one who innovates. So I think innovation is the key here.
देवांग जी, सर ने मुझे innovation की जो word कही है, but मेरे लिए innovation से ज़्यादा आता है important execution. I'm not disagreeing with his part. Everyone can, on paper, everyone is innovative. But जब बात execution की आती है, at what level do you think startups need to scale up and how fast? Like अगर आप मुझे बोलोगे कि मुझे कितना टाइम लगना चाहिए एक एक्सपेंशन के बारे में सोचने के लिए एज अ स्टार्टअप, व्हाट वुड बी योर रियल आइडिया ऑफ एक्सपेंशन?
See, again, expansion in startups and stable business are two different games. Okay, let's understand that. Expansion when it comes to startups, I think expansion comes much later. First is stability. Okay, growing your business without creating a proper base, you bound to fall. Okay, never ever do that. Your investors might pressurize you. Were pressurizing you at one point in time. Okay, but now investors have understood because they've made those mistakes now, and they understand. Looking at growth or asking a founder to grow faster than what his ability is, right, will only give you more losses than your profits. Okay, in short term you can have good numbers to show to the world and to the future investors, but it's not going to work. Which means as a founder of a startup, what you need to do is you first need to have your base right. While you keep consolidating, while you start figuring out what's working, what's not working there, start coming up with a second plan saying this is how we want to grow, right? It's all parallel that needs to happen here. So here you create your plans how you want to grow, and at the same time make sure that the business that you already set up, okay, does not fall down. So just to give you an example, I was sitting with one of the startups yesterday. These guys are into logistics space, okay. Now these guys are doing decent enough for last 3 years. This guy says we are into your micro logistics space, so your SMEs who want to deliver your commodities to other guys, we manage that, all of that. I said you guys are doing fantastic. So these guys will be reaching a turnover of top line of around 15 CR. Okay, and will be profitable this year. Now these guys are like, we want to expand into helping our customers with their sales. And I'm like, dude, you've got such a big market to capture. अभी तो कुछ भी नहीं किया आपने, अभी वो सब चीजों में जा भी क्यों रहे हो? Why do you want to get into that thing? Logistics is a huge space, isn't it? And the way you make money in their business is only by the way scale, right? So more business you give to a DMart or a DHL, right? Those guys give you more discounts. That's how it is. मेरा इतना बड़ा market है, इतना बड़ा opening छोड़ के वो क्यों करना है आपको? So that's why you need to figure out whether you should do it or not do it. And if you want to do it, then how you want to make sure that your existing business does not get impacted. That's very, very important.
I'll continue the same thing with Rahul ji. Rahul ji, मुझे ये जानना है कि like now everything is adapting with time. जैसे आप देख रहे हो AI आ रहा है, software आ रहे हैं. So especially a large scale company which was built like 30 years पहले, 50 years पहले, जो भी एक legacy से चल रहे हैं, how difficult it is for them to adapt to these changes, and like is it possible they will survive if they don't adapt?
So I completely agree with you. So the point is that if the sentence which you said, if they don't adapt, they will not survive. That is for sure. But I'm sure, like everyone was saying, that all of the companies, whether it's startup or a large organization, they have been adapting because they know this is something which is going to change the future, right? That this is something which is going to complement them to be 2x better, 3x better. So all the companies, and it also comes with the leadership of the company. So let's say if leadership is really aligned and they can see the future, they can see the vision of the company for next 30-40 years, they will be adaptable to the situation which is according to the market. So in a nutshell, all the companies who are there, and if they want to do something big in next 30-40 years, they have to adapt with the technology, with the market environment, with the competition, with the consumer behavior. That is something which is also important, because with the help of technology and the market condition, consumer behavior is also changing. So it's not only about the technology and AI, you have to see how the consumer is shaping, what are the buying patterns, how are they going to buy in the future. And that is why everything, let's say your distribution should be changed, your marketing should be changed, your approach to the people should be changed. So everything put together, you need to adapt at every level, not only to the technology. Yeah?
So for, like he said, the brands will have to adapt. But I am very sure कि legal framework तो बहुत पहले से set होता है. तो legal framework का क्या आप उसमें रोशनी डालना चाहोगे? Because when it comes to legality, हमारा company के rules अलग होते हैं, government के rules अलग हैं. Every day when things change, do you really think कि like with the speed AI is getting developed in India, will it also affect the legal system not only for the companies but startups and freelancers?
As long as we don't have challenge in tax system, everything else is manageable.
ये तो बहुत safe answer हुआ. This is something.
No, let me elaborate on that.
Yeah.
See, when we talk about Indian subcontinent's legality, we have acts, specific acts, special acts, and acts which have criminal nature of evaluation. Now, having said that, the problem when there is an expansion or a merger is opinions of two different companies when they are merging. One legal team will have a different style of understanding, other legal team will have a different style of understanding. These guys don't gel. That is the problem. Second is, there are many things we have discussed about compliance before. Certain things which are forgotten before and they are not cared for, after the merger becomes a big hit. They derail the entire merger synergy as such. So what is required is a serious legal due diligence from time to time. What people miss is always latest enactments the present legal team of any company does not care about. In the name of compliance, they are only into repetitive activities rather than focusing on some new act which can have an impact on it. Now this is something which every company should focus on. Rather than trying to have one consultant who is a retainer comes once in blue moon to the office, serves no purpose than seeing papers, you need to have some team which is specialized and addresses you in that particular segment. For example, it's a media producing company. There is a change in cinematographic act. There are rules made. Person who is coming for retainership assessment sees only 4 points. What's the revenue cycle? When is the exit clause? Who is going to have which covenants? Is there insurance or not? This guy has never seen whether there is a change in cinematography rule or not. Why? It's not there in his rule book. He is never updated. His Android still is at 1.0 and 3.0 has already come. That's the challenge. So you need specialized entities in that particular segment. When you know that you are in a particular niche, like Devesh has said about Reliance is innovating. Now when they innovate, they call the guy who is expert and updated in that particular legal domain. Get legal due diligence done. They don't go with paracetamol everything. Hey, what my legal team says. They never say that. Because when they went into AI, they talked about what is the new updations in Information Technology Act, whether there is any new cyber law that's going to come into place. If I'm going to get into Argentina, what are the laws there? That's the research which they did. Now this every small and big company have to do. You cannot say I don't have so much of cash. Because once you expand, your cash burns into legal disputes. We love there, but companies don't like it.
So guys, it's time to conclude this panel discussion. For me, whatever I've heard from these experts, I would believe intelligent business is not just about speed or desire. It is more of taking right decision at the right time and following the compliance and the laws. So thank you very much. With this, we finish up the first panel discussion. Thank you, everyone.